Hey everyone. All right, so we talked about my favorite year of the 80s. Now let's go ahead and go even further back. My favorite year of the 70s, which ironically, it is just irony, I promise. Just so happens to also be the last one. Let's shake down 1979. That's a good song. Anyway, yeah, 79 is my favorite cinematic year of the 70s. I can't say because of the movies I saw in theaters, because, my parents haven't even met each other yet. But based on what films I have seen that came out during that year, it was pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome year. It's got a lot of great films now at least. I saw a lot of great movies from that year out of all the years of the 70s. Granted, you could argue, well, I'm too young to talk about the 70s, aren't I? I mean, I see movie. I've seen a lot of movies in the 70s. Okay, I've seen a lot, and so much so that 1979 is probably up there as one of my top five favorite years of cinema. I mean, there's a lot of great movies that year. So yeah, I really do want to talk more about a year that was all the way back to the 70s, back before anyone watching this video was born. And yeah, yeah. Should be fun because, yeah, there were a lot of great movies. Now, some on this list I noticed are probably not some of the most popular ones, but they're ones that I love. There are some ones we could be familiar of, but for the most part, it's not your everyday Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter shit. It's the films of the 70s. And yeah, this year was awesome for standalone films. Some mild sequels, I don't know how many are on this list exactly, but we'll see. And, even if you haven't seen these movies, you should hopefully enjoy this knowing that I've seen them. Because that's something, right? Yeah, let's get started.
Rocky was a masterpiece. We all can agree that the first Rocky movie was amazing, or at least everyone who has seen it. I mean, come on, please tell me you've seen it. It is such a great film. Even if you're not a fan of boxing, the movie itself has lots of great depth and excitement to its story. It's all around masterpiece. What's my opinion on Rocky 2? Well, it's obviously not as good, but as the poster does imply, yes, indeed, the story does continue. While there isn't as much emotion and depth, there is still some good depth in this film. We follow Rocky still continue on as becoming a world-renowned champion boxer, even after the first movie's ending of him losing a match, but still getting enjoying enough courage that he's had. This film kind of puts him back up, tries to hype him up more. He needs to get back in the game, show that even though he lost one game, he's still gotta keep striving, gotta continue on. You're a legend. Everyone needs to know you as that. So here he kind of just tries to keep his legacy strong. He tries to keep growing, still be as awesome of a boxer as he was in the first one. Just kind of focus more on his boxing career now, more on his athletic side, more such. The first movie kind of tackled more of his daily life, kind of his personal life that he deals with alongside his career as a boxer. This movie really takes more into his career as a boxer. And you could argue that kind of makes it weaker, which I guess in a way it does. But at the same time, they do a good job at showcasing some more of that, because the first movie had a lot of it, but again, it was mostly just his personal life. This film will cut more into his boxing life, and yeah, it's pretty good from that point on. So I've talked about this movie before, how most people consider it to be a pretty bad film, especially considering it comes from freaking Steven Spielberg. But honestly, I just still think this movie deserves more love. I mean, truth be told, I guess I can understand how Spielberg never wanted to do a silly comedy again after this one. But at the same time, this film itself was pretty fun. It's a pretty fun little satire on 1941. That was the year the Pearl Harbor bombings. There was the whole World War II propaganda stuff going on. All that's satirized in this film. Features a bunch of SNL stars like John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, a couple of other kids. It's kind of this silly adventure featuring different people who we kind of just see some silly antics they get into during very dark and war renowned era. The film just kind of goes all insanity with its stuff. There's not much Spielberg vibe to the film. I mean, you can't really watch the movie and say, "Oh yeah, it's the same guy who did Jaws or E.T." But you can still see where the production value comes from because for a silly comedy, there is a lot of explosions and big budget moments, so that is something. It's kind of stuff you don't usually see in your daily Mel Brooks spoof for the time. I don't know, man. This movie still was a lot of fun. Again, it's definitely nothing great, especially compared to everything else Spielberg has done, but that just shows how great Spielberg has become. Yeah, it's understandable if he doesn't want to think back to this movie as part of his legacy, and I can understand that. You know, it's easy to understand why not many people would like the film, because I guess it's just kind of I don't know forgettable for some people, or I guess not as satirically brilliant to them. To me, though, I think the movie's insanity and excitement really holds the film together. So yeah, I'm. Am I crazy for saying this movie's really good? I shouldn't be. Ah, the one that started it all. We all know the Mad Max movies now, the newer ones, Fury Road, all that. But of course, we gotta look back to where this franchise began. It began in Australia, the 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 land down under, might. Don't want to be offensive. Now it started in Australia with good old super young Mel Gibson. And what film that kind of shows the story of a man who has a family, but also lives in a society where there's crazy car drivers, a society he has to get himself involved in. It's pretty much just kind of a interesting way to introduce us to this concept of crazy drivers in a dystopian society. And it's something that would become much more exaggerated as the films went on. This movie shows a light side to it. We see insane people with driving insanely, but that's about it. Other than that, the rest of the film feels very modern, sort of normal looking. It's mostly just the driving scenes that elevate the film's craziness that you would know from some future Mad Max films. And from that matter, you could say that this one's the weakest because of that. So yeah, I guess I would say it kind of is the weakest because it's not as insane or dystopian as the other films. But it is a beginner. It is what started off this franchise, and I think the film is still watchable. You know, while there's not a lot of dystopian insanity, that's just something we had to wait for. The film itself does show off its concept well enough. The car scenes are fun. Um, Mel Gibson's character is enjoyable. So yeah, watching this movie in comparison to the other ones would probably have you saying, "Oh man, this is so boring." But at the same time, there is something fun to be found in this film. I really do think the movie still deserves to be enjoyed, even if it's not as insane or jam packed as its successors are. All right, now let's talk about another dystopian society, one where there's just a bunch of different groups of people who are just out to pretty much cause terror or shit every night. The Warriors is one of those dystopian societies that I kind of would be interested in, but at the same time, I guess I should be glad there's not. This one kind of just centers around a bunch of different groups of people who terrorize each other, kind of just dedicate their land or such. Yeah, it's one of those rival war team films. I like this. I like the films that focus on a group of people. Group films are always some of the great ones, in my opinion. I love those kind of films. And yeah, that's what this movie is. It's a bunch of groups. One group called, the Warriors, who are kind of just out to defend their honor against a bunch of other tribes or whatever you want to call them. The film kind of just satirizes this sort of cult thing that I'm sure many people had interest with in the time. I wasn't alive at the time, so I can't be 100% sure. But I'm sure one watching this movie, it does definitely feel like they were onto something. They were really trying to put a message out on something here. So if you were alive the 70s or do remember the hype when this movie came out, maybe you know that if this film really was taking initiative at something that really was going on with society at the time. Nowadays, cults, it's still common in some areas, though it's more of a political world now. So instead of groups of people who terrorize, I think the new version of the Warriors is, I don't know, the political sides. I do not want to see a remake or something that goes in that route. That would just be horrible. Still, the film itself is quite fun. The acting and everything is pretty enjoyable. Like you got these guys are just all over the top in their way, and they're supposed to be. So it comes off as not ironically enjoyed. No, it's the right intention. You're supposed to know these guys as insane or sometimes weird, and they play it out nicely. So yeah, you're looking for insane or weird people. You got insane and weird people. Okay, yes. Oh man, come on. You can't tell me how you don't want to like Monty Python. Monty Python was a British group of comedians who have made some of the funniest crap around this time. Like I've seen all their movies, I've watched a bunch of their skits. They're hilarious. Of course, I've talked about how Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the funniest movie ever, and I still stand by that. But now let's talk about their other popular film, Life of Brian. This film takes a center at satirizing, well, Christian belief. Not much so. It satirizes the life of, it's like a film that kind of focuses on this guy named Brian, who everyone thinks is the Messiah. There's some biblical aspect to that. Sort of takes on different things like I don't know, the life of Jesus, the birth of Jesus, the crucifixion of Christ, or a bunch of other biblical religious things that kind of tie in with the film's message. And I do remember hearing stories about how there were some religious groups who were not wanting this movie to release because of that. Back then, making fun of religion or Christian biblical stuff was a pretty heavy thing to do. It's kind of what made this movie controversial in some areas. But hey, if it does the jokes right, it does everything right. This film does do its stuff right. The film does take a good job at jabbering things. It doesn't go as far as to mock um our Lord and Savior. No, it just introduces us to all these new weird characters who are just these weird, silly, ridiculous people in this old time period. And you got Brian, who's everyone thinks is the Messiah. He's just over here. You're getting bothered and such. How about have a scene where he literally falls on his house and lands in a spaceship, goes through outer space for like a minute or two, and then after that, it's just never brought up again. Yeah, they gotta throw that in because you gotta remind ourselves that this movie is not something you need to be taken too seriously. You got a lot for this film. It's insanity, but at the same time, it's also done hilariously. You'll see all the, you'll get a vibe to this movie like you do with other biblical films, but at the same time, it'll it'll be satirical. You you should get a good laugh out of this film. I think the Monty Python movies are something to be adored. And this is coming from someone who was born in the 2000s. You'd think I'd be over here gushing about how Adam Sandler is a comic legend or something, but no, no, he's not. Monty Python is. So please, if you love comedy, come on, give Monty Python the credit they deserve because their comedy really did shine some enjoyment in me. It's probably one of the few things where I can sit down and be pleasantly and really entertained 24/7. Oh, here we have another. Here we have one of those prison escape films. That's one thing I always enjoy seeing: prison escape movies. Films like Shawshank Redemption or Great Escape are classics. But let's talk about one that I feel isn't talked about enough: Escape from Alcatraz. This is a true story, one I don't know enough about. All I know is that the film itself is pretty enjoyable. What we follow is a guy who's played by good old Clint Eastwood here, who is stuck in Alcatraz, a prison. Yes, it's the one of the most secure prisons in the entire country. It's like on this one island in somewhere in California. It's all, and you know it's heavily protected. You probably wouldn't be able to escape it. But the film kind of just follows the story of how one man was able to escape such a dangerous and well locked up, protected prison. We see Def about how people he interacts with. He kind of tries to make friends or whatever, and then we see how he's going to escape. What's his method? How is he going to dig a hole? How is he going to make a ladder? How is he going to swim? And from there, we see what his methods are. We see kind of the full insights of why he, of how he is in prison and what really motivates him to escape. Honestly, it's not Shawshank Redemption levels of amazing writing, but it is much more entertaining than I could expect. Seeing a movie focusing on a man having strategies and motive for escaping to then get to the big part where he does escape really is well put together film in my opinion. I just think this movie's pacing was really well done. I think the overall film has a really great sense to it. I love how nice the whole story runs. I like how the escape portion is well timed and everything. I gotta admit, I really think this movie was an improvement over The Great Escape. That was a prison escape movie I saw previously. I liked it, although I feel like the ending of that movie went on way longer than it needed to. This movie made up for that because after the escape portion, there was only like 5 more minutes left, and it was just the police searching for them, not finding them, and then we learn his true story behind what exactly happened to him after he escaped. And yeah, that's where the movie ends. I like that. I like that. It was well pasted and all. The movie's just really well pasted. If you're looking for a great prison escape movie, there are a lot of great ones. But I do think this one deserves to be watched. Because again, I really don't feel like this movie gets talked about enough. It is really well written, in my opinion. And now let's talk about a movie starring Muppets. The Muppets have always been a huge part of my childhood. I remember I used to love them and also be slightly scared of them. Yeah. Is it embarrassing to say that? Maybe, but yeah. As much as I enjoyed the Muppets, I was also a tad terrified of them. It just seemed that their realism was kind of creepy to me. Some of them were creepy. So while I enjoyed watching them, at the same time, it was not something I usually would want to rewatch out of terms of just being scared or whatever. Still, though, as I started growing more balls and um, ex- becoming less scared of them, my Muppets love grew more. And at this point in time, I can definitely say the Muppets were awesome. All throughout my childhood, when I was scared of them and when I was not scared of them. This, of course, is their very first feature film. We see a story, a fictionalized story of how these Muppets met each other and became a group to go to Hollywood. And it's not one of those films that tries to make sense of the world of these Muppets existing alongside humans. Because you'd think they would have to explain what they are, like how they exist, how they're puppets that exist in a world of humans. But no, no, but we're just accepting that this is a society of humans and some people in the world are Muppets. That's just that. They just let us accept that, and I love it because, yeah, you're going to be spending way too much time trying to make sense of this. So don't bother. Just have them in the world, put them with humans. It'll work better that way, and it does. They're hilarious. They even give the humans a lot of hilarious stuff to say. They give us some celebrity cameos for the film who get their own funny bits. We get a lot of satire. We get a lot of Hollywood, Hollywood referencing and such. Kind of just try to make the film very whimsical. There's a lot of great songs in it too. Muppets are also great in their music sense. They're funny, but also musically talented. So yes, you do get a lot of great songs in this movie too. I think the Muppets have just always been a great staple. They're hilarious, but also well entertaining. There are, of course, a lot more Muppet movies out there, and I recommend seeing every other one. Good old Francis Ford Coppola. We, of course, know him for The Godfather, but of course, his second universally acclaimed film is Apocalypse Now, a war film, a film about a tribe being putting under attack, a, a tribe that we see one man become interested in, getting interest for. It's a story about a Vietnam thing. It's like a Vietnam film where we see this one dude is who is taking on this journey to. Well, it's a war film. Okay, I'm trying to really make sense. I gotta analyze the film exactly. It's pretty long and heavy film, so it's gotta really think into it. You focus on him, but the idea is simple: a man who goes into war, sees the tribe he's supposed to attack, and becomes interested in it. And you may think, oh, is that just Avatar or whatever? No, it's more or less just one of those. Are you a veteran or are you a follower kind of film? What side are you on? Such just kind of one of the more serious type of films that kind of gives you the idea of if you want to root for what he does or if you want to be all like, dude, you're doing this the wrong way or whatever. It's kind of just puts you in the eyes of that one character. I think that's really the best way I can describe this movie. Plot wise, I gotta really watch the film while making the list in order to explain the plot well. But the idea essentially is you're putting yourself in that character's face. It's one of those kind of films. And yeah, I love seeing those films. Those are some of the best kind of films to make. Making a character who you can visualize yourself as. And that's kind of what they do here. They give us a character and they kind of try to establish who he is, what he's doing, and what he's thinking about, what he wants to do now that he's on this mission. Does he want to fulfill his desired mission, or does he have new ideas? Whatever happens, all we know is that there is an apocalypse now. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this spot more enjoyable. Clearly, I'm not doing a good job at that. All right, now let's talk about a movie that's a little bit easier for me to talk about. A film involving divorce. Divorce is not a fun thing for kids to go through. I've never experienced one, though we have joked about it before. Probably isn't something I should joke about, but anyway, yeah, a lot of families do go through heavy divorces, so maybe joking about it's not a good thing. But yeah, a divorce isn't fun for the kids especially. And this film kind of shows that. It's a film focusing on a father who has to keep a child after the divorce, and a child he misses his mom. He doesn't really feel at home when he's just with his father. So how will this work? Will we push them to get back together? Will there be a will there be a resolution here? Will he learn to accept his father for who he is? The film doesn't entirely go in that fairy tale route. It instead really does try to reflect more seriously on the matters of who keeps the kid and where that leads to. Because divorce, this movie does do a great job at showing how one of the many problems with divorce is what you do with the kid. Who will the kid live with, and how can we make sure the kid is happy with that decision? It really does. It kind of create that center piece. It doesn't entirely focus on what the parents are thinking with themselves. It focuses more on how one child is being taken in account with this, and it kind of just takes in the bondage, but that there has to be with one parent to the other because the kid will get along with you great when you're together, but when you're separated, it won't be easy for them to. They won't be easy on you anymore. They're gonna really miss the mom, and they're gonna become hard on you. And I think everything I can learn about what makes a divorce messy, but also what makes it easy to move on from after a while, does come from this movie. This film was the perfect example of analyzing divorce. So if I ever go through a divorce, which I don't want to go through, since I don't even want to get married to begin with, I'll have this movie to thank for teaching me how to handle it right. But of course, what better movie to top this year than the film that scared the hell out of all of us? Alien, yes. This is the ultimate alien film. You see you see aliens usually in their cute sense. Usually when you think of a good alien film, you think of something where they're friendly, like in E.T. or Star Wars, or every other alien movie you saw as a kid. But here we have the movie that shows us the dark side of aliens, the creepy side, the side of aliens we don't want to meet. It's a side where these aliens terrify humans. A bunch of missioners on a spaceship go to find this distinct planet involving a bunch of aliens, and of course, what they stumble upon are loads of eggs and a horribly terrifying mother of them that just made the most terrifying jump scare ever. I still can't get over that jump scare. It was insane. Of course, there was the scene of the alien bursting out of the chest. That'll always bring shivers down our spines. It's scary. It's intense. It's all those things. It's really intense and super ahead of its time. Like I was impressed at how ahead of its time this movie was. It's one of those horror movies that doesn't feel like it came out when it did. It feels very modern with how it's pasted and how horrifying its stuff is. I I seriously don't know how easy it is to rewatch this movie because usually I'll watch rewatch a horror movie just fine, but sometimes when a film really does put shivers into you and kind of creates a suspense that you that can be hard for you to um, be used to, you really gotta try your hardest to be brave. And I'm impressed that this movie was like that. I always love cute alien movies like E.T. or such, but anything other than that will always be amazing like this. Alien is a good example that aliens, we don't know if aliens exist or not, but if they do, they're either going to be like E.T. or like this. And we hope to God they aren't like this.